It was Linda who introduced me to Unitarian Universalism in 1986, when she invited me to come to All Souls Unitarian Church, where she was directing the choir. That was the first time I heard Spirit of Life, a hymn that has become one of my favorites. I loved the UU hymnal with its rich repertoire, inclusive language, and cultural and spiritual diversity. For the first time in a long time, I felt comfortable singing hymns without having to read ahead to see if I agreed with the words. After vowing that I would never step foot in another church again, I soon found myself singing in the choir and began to feel that I had finally found a spiritual home. In 1992, we were living in Grass Valley, a small town in the Sierra foothills in California. I was about to turn 40, and when Linda asked me what I wanted for my birthday, I said, of course, a harp. I loved listening to harp music during my bodywork sessions and often had envisioned myself sitting in front of a golden harp. Well, we were poor as church mice and couldn't imagine how we could afford a harp, but we were talking to some of our New Age friends, and they said, if you put it out there, the universe will support you. And it did. Well, Linda is very creative, and she made an invitation with a picture of a golden-haired harpist playing the harp, and wrote a little story about a princess named Celeste who always wanted to learn to play the harp, but alas, there was no money in the kingdom, so all her friends got together and had a bake sale and gave her the proceeds. Well, and at the bottom of the invitation was a request for donations. We weren't sure if anyone would really send us any money, but one by one, the envelopes began to arrive at our apartment in Grass Valley. And in the end, I had enough, almost exactly enough, to buy my first little harp. So I call it my miracle harp. Little did I know when I got that beautiful little harp that I would be playing it one day to comfort others. I had been seeking a way to work with people that combined my interests and skills in both healing and music. My quest led me first to workshops with Don Campbell and other sound healers, where I learned about the universal connection between music, healing, and the sacred. In all of the world's cosmologies, sound has been considered to be the basis of existence. Sound brought the universe into being and regulates the cycles of the seasons and the rhythms of the body, the moon and the tide, and the circling of the stars and the planets in heaven. All of the ancient mystery schools taught their initiates the use of sound as a creative and healing force. Chants, mantras, prayers served as purpose in reachieving union between the body, mind, and soul, and were viewed as a means of communion, a way of connecting on a vibratory level with the divine. The ancients believed that sound and music could affect healing in individuals by altering their physical, emotional, or spiritual state. They taught that rhythmic movements could affect changes in a person's physical state, that melody could affect the emotions, and that harmony was capable of lifting the consciousness to spiritual awareness. My initial explorations into sound healing led me later to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, where I studied music therapy, honed my harp skills with a pedantic 80-some-year-old classical harpist named Francis Miller, and took up the piano once more after a 25-year hiatus. When I wasn't practicing the harp or the piano, I could often be found humming, toning, chanting, drumming, playing Tibetan bowls, or listening to sacred indigenous music. At UW-Eau Claire, I learned about the neurophysiological basis for the effects of music on the human body and mind. The physiological and psychological responses we have to music are thought to involve complex brain chemistry changes, not only in the thinking part of our brain, but in the emotional brain, the limbic system, and in the primitive brain, the brainstem, which controls heartbeat, respiration, and muscle tension. For example, music can produce endorphins, natural opiates secreted by the hypothalamus, which can reduce the intensity with which we perceive pain. It can also stimulate the release of dopamine, another feel-good neurotransmitter, which is released with biological rewards, like eating and sex. In 1997, while still a student at UW-Eau Claire, I took a course on the use of cross-cultural music in healing with Pat Moffett-Cook in Bainbridge Island, Washington, where I further explored the healing powers of music from cross-cultural, metaphysical, and spiritual perspectives. In most indigenous cultures, sound and music not only accompany important passages in life, such as birth, puberty, marriage, and death, they are used in rituals and curing rites, which are enacted to restore balance in individuals, communities, nature, and other forces unseen. Loss of the soul or spirit is considered to be the cause of illness, and the role of the shaman or healer is to retrieve the soul, which in turn restores balance to the mind and body. A talk I heard that year at a music therapy conference had a profound impact on me. A woman named Therese Schroeder-Shaker spoke about her program, The Chalice of Repose, and something called music thanatology, a kind of spiritual midwifery, which uses harp and voice to attend to the physical and spiritual needs of the dying. She told a moving story about climbing into bed with a dying, frightened old man and holding him and singing to him while he died. I was intrigued by the idea of using the harp to accompany the dying, but I could not imagine giving up my life for 2 years to move to Montana and complete her program. Fortunately, a short time later, I learned about the Music for Healing and Transition program, a program that teaches musicians to play for the ill and the dying at the bedside. It was just the thing I had been looking for, and it was being taught in Phoenix, where we had recently moved. During my internship, I played in inpatient hospice facilities, on hospice and extended care wings of hospitals, in assisted living centers, and in private homes. Each setting provided me with both challenges and successes. Doing this work proved to be an amazing experience. It stretched me in every way, personally, musically, spiritually. I discovered that what we were told on that first day of our very first module was true. When you play from the heart, there are no wrong notes. In difficult, stressful situations, even the humblest of gifts is deeply appreciated. And I witnessed firsthand the healing power of music. I saw it stabilize heart and respiration rates, calm anxious patients and their families, comfort those in pain, allow family members to express their grief, relax stressed out caregivers, bring smiles to people with dementia, and give peace to the dying. One of the most profound and beautiful experiences I had happened early in my internship when I was asked to play at the home of a 50-year-old woman dying of breast cancer. I ended up going there 6 evenings in a row. Her family and friends had been gathering all week to say goodbye to her, and her husband felt that the music was helping her and them through this process. When I arrived on the last evening, he asked me if I knew how to play Ave Maria. It was one of his wife's favorite songs, and he wanted her to hear it one more time before she died. One of their friends, who was a singer, had the music with her, and he had asked her to sing while I played. I looked at the music and knew there was absolutely no way I could even play all of the notes, let alone play them right. My small harp didn't even have the 2 lower octaves, and there were a lot of accidentals in Ave Maria. Nevertheless, I told the husband that I would give it a try because I sensed how much it meant to him. In the intensity of the moment, there was no time for fear, no place for ego. Somewhere, somehow, I found most of the notes and I played them with love. While family and friends gathered around the patient's bed and young children laughed and romped downstairs, I played Ave Maria as the family friends sang. Each time another family member arrived, we did the whole song all over again. I could hear weeping in the room. The patient's husband sat on the floor near the harp, smiling, with an expression of absolute peace on his face. He said to me later, "You have brought me such joy with your music." Experiences like this taught me about the spiritual nature of this work. And now I'm going to play a song for you called "Falling to Heaven."